one bitter bean, one forbidden drink, and the rise and fall of empires, all hidden in plain sight. Chocolate was never just a treat. It was power. It was currency. It was ambition, conquest, and seduction, all wrapped inside a humble pod. Long before it melted in our mouths, chocolate moved armies, funded empires, and dictated the course of human history. Deep within the tangled green heart of Central America, in the dense and echoing rainforests, cacao grew wild, its trees sprouting from the forest floor like secrets waiting to be uncovered. The air was thick with humidity, alive with the drone of insects, the calls of birds, and the rustling whispers of unseen animals. And beneath that leafy canopy, clinging to tree trunks and vines, were the pods, small, colorful, and inconspicuous. Yet inside them lay beings with power far greater than their size. The ancient Maya, and later the mighty Aztecs, knew what they held. To them, cacao wasn't food, it was divine, a sacred gift from the gods. Myth held that Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent deity, stole cacao from paradise and gave it to humanity, and from that moment it became the lifeblood of their world. Among the Aztecs, cacao was so valuable it was currency. Beans were traded for goods, services, even lives. A handful of beans could buy you a rabbit. A few dozen, a slave. But cacao's worth went beyond the market. It was power distilled. It was ceremony. It was sacred fuel. Montezuma II, the last great Aztec emperor, did not drink chocolate for pleasure. He consumed it as a weapon. 50 golden cups a day, each filled with a bitter, spiced, and frothed chocolate elixir, laced with chili, honey, and sometimes the petals of wild flowers. Each sip was an incantation, a ritual, a preparation for ruling, for war, for divine judgment. Warriors drank it before charging into battle, priests before sacrifice, merchants before crossing mountains. In the capital city of Tenochtitlan, larger than London at the time, markets bustled with energy, and cacao beans changed hands in every direction. Beneath every transaction was a heartbeat of ambition, conquest, and ancient belief. But this sacred power would soon fall into foreign hands. In 1519, Hernán Cortés landed on the Gulf Coast. The Spanish had come in search of gold, yet they discovered something else. Something that the Aztecs guarded even more closely: cacao. The Spanish were puzzled at first. Why were these strange people treating beans like treasure? But they soon understood. They tasted the drink. Bitter, fiery, invigorating, and they saw how it elevated those who consumed it. Tenochtitlan fell, its temples burned, its treasures seized. Among the stolen gold and jewels were sacks upon sacks of cacao beans, dark, dry, and seemingly unremarkable. But when these beans reached Spain, something unexpected happened. The aristocracy was captivated. Spanish monks added sugar, cinnamon, vanilla, nutmeg, and in doing so they transformed a sacred potion into something else: a luxury, a delicacy, a new obsession. By the 17th century, chocolate was sweeping across Europe, but this was not the solid candy we know today. Chocolate was still a drink, frothy, dark, and complex. It was poured into porcelain cups in royal courts, savored slowly by kings and queens, and with every sip it gained more prestige. Chocolate houses began popping up across London, Paris, Amsterdam, and Madrid, exclusive establishments where nobles and merchants gathered not just to indulge but to negotiate, gossip, and scheme. Over steaming mugs of rich, spiced chocolate, empires were imagined, fortunes were made, and revolutions were whispered into being. In these dimly lit rooms, chocolate became more than a drink. It was a currency of conversation, a social lubricant that bridged politics, commerce, and seduction. To offer chocolate was to offer favor. To decline it was an insult. Those who controlled the supply of cacao controlled the mood of the court, but behind the elegance and ritual was an invisible machinery of cruelty. As Europe's appetite for chocolate grew, so did its hunger for control. Cacao could not grow in the cold northern climates. It needed tropical rainforests. And so plantations spread like wildfire across European colonies. In the Caribbean, South America, and West Africa, where once indigenous farmers had tended the cacao groves as stewards of tradition, now enslaved Africans were forced to work in brutal conditions. Under the burning sun, they cleared forests, fermented beans in sweat-soaked pits, laid them out on drying racks, and hauled them by the ton to ships waiting in port. Their suffering was the foundation of Europe's pleasure. As the cacao trade boomed, nations fought to control it. Spain, Portugal, France, England, each battled not just with weapons but with treaties, spies, pirates, and sabotage. Entire naval fleets were deployed not for gold or silver but for the humble cacao bean. In some ports, its price exceeded that of precious metals. Wars were waged not for land but for flavor. And just as war reshaped empires, the Industrial Revolution reshaped chocolate. With steam-powered grinders and mechanized mills, chocolate no longer needed to be reserved for royalty. It was molded into bars, wrapped in paper, and sold in shops. Factories sprang up in every corner of industrial Europe. Fry & Sons, Cadbury, Lindt, Nestlé. The names became household legends. Chocolate was democratized, but the darkness in its origins remained. While Europe celebrated its new treat, the labor behind it remained unchanged. Enslaved and impoverished workers still harvested the beans. In West Africa, children worked in fields under dangerous conditions. In South America, indigenous communities saw their lands stripped and their traditions erased. Chocolate had gone global, and with it, exploitation. The sweetness on the tongue came at a bitter cost. Still, chocolate shaped more than just commerce. It shaped culture. Poets wrote about it. Artists painted it. Composers referenced it in operas. Writers used it as a symbol of love, of luxury, of loss. Chocolate appeared in courtship rituals, in diplomatic banquets, in treaties and trade agreements. It was served at weddings, gifted in wars, used to forge alliances. It's no exaggeration to say, chocolate helped shape modern global society, and yet, for all its significance, we rarely pause to consider its past. Today, chocolate fills vending machines, gas stations, supermarkets, gift baskets. It's the currency of holidays and heartbreak, celebration and apology. But every bar, every truffle, every cup carries echoes of centuries long gone. From the sacred temples of Mesoamerica to the corridors of Versailles, from colonial plantations to modern factories, from forgotten rituals to billion-dollar industries, chocolate has never stopped moving, never stopped evolving. It is a mirror of our desires, a measure of our values, a product of our ingenuity and our exploitation. It is a story of power wielded through pleasure, of status built on suffering, of sweetness hiding centuries of struggle, a story that belongs not just to one nation or culture, but to the world. And even now, in a global industry worth over $100 billion, the bitter truth remains. Much of the chocolate consumed today is still produced through labor that is underpaid, underprotected, and unseen. So next time you bite into a piece of chocolate, pause, listen. There are whispers in the sweetness, echoes in the melt, of kings and conquerors, of laborers and rebels, of deals struck, empires built, and lives lost. From the jungle floors of the Aztecs to the golden salons of Europe, from brutal colonial fields to modern-day factory lines, one bitter bean reshaped the taste of power itself. This was the story of how chocolate didn't just satisfy cravings, it built kingdoms and broke empires. You've been watching Wealth Untold, where we uncover the fortunes that shaped our world and the forgotten costs behind every luxury. Subscribe and join us next time as we peel back another layer of history's sweetest lies and find the bitter truth beneath.